wonder of the world, basically a geek show. And here are your hosts, Mike and Jack.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 68 of Basically a Geek Show. This is Jack, sitting here, being a complete and utter tool, as always, is Mike.
What's up?
So, yeah, Mike and I have been talking about this for just kind of idly, like in like our own personal conversations, for the last couple of weeks, just because it never ceases to amuse us, like the hilarity of what they have done, and it's also really sad too, but it's also kind of funny in like this way of like
kind of like a sad clown.
Right, yeah. I mean, like, essentially, I mean, Mike and I have oftentimes on the show expressed a disagreement with a decision, you know, a company has made regarding a franchise or a property that we enjoy. Mm-hmm. But as soon as we're done saying how stupid they are, we can kind of sit back and be like, okay, well, at least they think they're doing something good. They're just doing it stupidly. Mm-hmm. And in this case with Konami, like, and this is admittedly kind of old news. We don't really have anything new to say about it. But we just thought we would share kind of like more in depth, I guess, our thoughts on the situation.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever seen a company essentially commit suicide on live television like they've been doing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it started with, you know, Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain.
Which was the follow-up to Metal Gear Solid Revengeance.
Well, Revengeance, I think, is kind of like its own thing.
Yeah, but it was the last
Metal Gear game. I actually wouldn't mind playing Revengeance. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, but it was the last Metal Gear game before Phantom Pain, so henceforth, Phantom Pain sort of... You know, it was and Phantom Pain is still a stupid title, but at least they didn't make up a word like Revengeance, which is something you or I would make up, you know, in a drunken stupor.
Right.
Like it's sort of like if we were like just drunk and being like, you know, it'd be funny if like the next Metal Gear game, Snake went out for revenge, and it was called Metal Gear Revengeance.
Lol. Well, that actually was the second Metal Gear game on NES was Snake's Revenge. Mm-hmm. It's actually the one Metal Gear game that Kojima had nothing to do with. It was called Metal Gear 2 in Japan, as I recall, I believe, where they got a different game for Metal Gear 2. I don't remember exactly. And it's been maligned by a lot of people over the years, but it's actually a pretty good game. I mean, as far as these things go, at least, if nothing else, it's got a rockin' soundtrack. But anyway, so yeah, the thing with Konami, in case, you know, you don't know or haven't been following it or weren't following it when it was a thing, it started when they, you know, basically released a demo that you buy. It was originally $40. Mm-hmm. Then they lowered the price to $30 after people, like, you know, lost their fucking minds over buying a demo for Metal Gear Solid 5. Mm-hmm. And the thing was, like, this game was basically the production of this game was bankrupting them. Mm-hmm. Because Kojima, I mean, okay, yeah, the man has made them lots of money. I'm not saying Kojima's not a good talent. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that I think he's a bit full of himself.
Oh, just play any Metal Gear game and you realize that the plot is so far up its own ass at this point that it's, well, yeah. The man thinks highly of himself and his work is what I'm saying.
Like, well, and that's it. I mean, you know, they were spending, I think they said they spent so much money on the production of Metal Gear Solid 5 that they will have to sell 6 million copies to break even. Mm-hmm. They've sold 3. Mm-hmm. And the game's been out for a while now. I mean, it's not a hot off the presses game anymore. It's been out for a few months.
So basically everyone who wants to buy one has already bought one.
Most likely, yeah. I mean, and so I think that's partially what led to Kojima and Konami parting ways. And that in and of itself was kind of stupid. Mm-hmm. He whether I agree with how the man goes about things or not, you don't get rid of your best talent.
Yeah, and again, he's made that company a lot of money.
And, right. He has, up until this, he made them a lot of money. Instead of, maybe they tried to rein him in, and it failed. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he walked because they were trying to rein him in or stifle his creativity. He is with Sony now, though, so I guess they think they can afford him.
No, Sony. I mean, Sony can afford pretty much anyone.
But the thing is, then they had so you get rid of Kojima. All right, well that's dumb. But all right, well you've still got they had the Silent Hills thing going on.
That demo, that Silent Hills demo, was very well received. That even had Del Toro.
Well, yeah, it was Silent Hills.
Was it writing or directing or both?
Directing, I think. It was like a collaboration between Kojima and Del Toro, was what it was. And just the playable trailer had people just losing their goddamn minds. I never played it.
And when you think about it, anyone who is familiar with the Metal Gear series, like Del Toro is like one of the is perfect to direct. It's almost tailor made to kind of his style of filmmaking. So
yeah,
and that was a huge thing that he'd actually agreed to come on board and work on this thing.
Yeah, and that would have been again that fucking game would have printed them so much money,
and
money.
And it would have been a big boom for the video game industry as a whole because there is always that debate. Do you consider video games art? And video games kind of, more than any other medium, seem to struggle for sort of legitimacy.
I don't think that's the case anymore.
I would still say it is. And, you look at television, movies, literature, theater, all those, I think, have reached the status we can say, they're, those are art. Video games, they're still struggling, I think. I really do. And I think having someone like Del Toro come in would have been a huge boom to the video game cause, for lack of a better term, in that regard. It really would have helped legitimize video games, I think. And, for reasons we're going to go into, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Konami, I mean, when Kojima left, when they got rid of Kojima, they scrapped the Silent Hills project.
Mm-hmm. And Del Toro then said he was never going to do video game collaboration ever again.
Yeah, because, this was his second or third attempt at helping to create a game, and it's something that he's gone on record saying he's wanted to do for years. Mm-hmm. And, this, he was going to finally get to do it this time, and nope, because Konami, pulled the plug on it. So they shot that in the foot. The resurrection of what would have been, during the, PS1 and PS2 days was one of their bigger franchises. Mm-hmm. Silent Hill, I never played any. Survival horror is not really my thing. Mm-hmm. So, I never really played them.
Yeah, they're good games. Of the survival horror genre, it's basically Silent Hill and Resident Evil, and a whole discount rack full of clones of one of those two properties. I always found Silent Hill to be the more enjoyable one. I thought it was more legitimately scary, whereas Resident Evil quickly kind of went off the reservation, and they're like, zombie dogs! Woo! It's like, I don't even know what the fuck this is anymore. But Silent Hill was always fun, and again, if you're familiar with Silent Hill, and if you're familiar with Del Toro's work in filmmaking, it almost seems like the perfect video game franchise for him to work on. And people were losing their shit over what was a fantastic playable trailer.
Now, did you play it?
I have seen it. I have not played it.
Okay. We'll never get to because they yanked it. Now, at the time, I did watch a couple of Let's Plays of it, both on YouTube, and I watched a couple Twitch streamers go through it. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it certainly looked, interesting. Again, not my cup of tea, but it certainly looked interesting. It was very different from what I've seen of the genre in recent years. And, yeah, like you said, nowadays, Resident Evil's pretty much... Well, I wouldn't say they're the only game in town anymore. There have been a few survival horror games, Outlast, the Amnesia series, Alien Isolation, which is one, actually, because it is part of the Alien franchise and not Colonial Marines, I actually wouldn't mind giving Isolation a try one day.
Mm-hmm. Now, Aliens is, especially the first Alien movie seems just so well suited to survival horror as a video game genre. So yeah. I'll definitely check that out. But for those old-time gamers, it's basically Resident Evil and Silent Hill when it comes to your classic survival horror franchise.
Yeah. And, so Konami pulled the plug on Silent Hills. Again, shooting themselves in the foot. I mean,
and here's what is absolutely mind-boggling. They do that, and then an hour later after issuing the statement that they're canceling Silent Hills, they delist themselves from the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah. And I didn't even know that you could do that.
Oh, you can, but like it
I mean, I would think that would be like some kind of like SEC, I don't know, legal issue, because basically you're not letting your stockholders sell off their stock at that point, are you? I mean, or I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I'm not finance and stock market finance stuff. That's not my wheelhouse, so I don't know how that works.
It should be,
but. Oh, shut up. I don't know how that stuff works, so... But considering that they did it and nobody was arrested, I assume that everything was done in a way to make the legal side of things happy. But... I mean, this is a company that had a promising playable trailer for a new entry in a widely popular series, with a respected and critically acclaimed film director, really excited to be part of the project.
And very, trendy at the moment acting talent, because they had dude from Walking Dead, Harold Ramis, I think is his name?
Yeah.
Daryl. From Walking Dead.
Harold Ramis was Ghostbusters.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Norman Ramis, I think is his name. Daryl from Walking Dead. We'll just say Daryl. So I mean, you had good acting talent. You had, or at the very least, popular acting talent. Mm-hmm. You've got a critically acclaimed director. You've got one of the biggest names in video gaming, for better or for worse, in the form of Kojima. Mm-hmm. To me, I don't know. Kojima kind of, to me, represents what I think is wrong with the industry right now in a lot of ways.
How so?
Well, okay. Well, look at this fiasco with Metal Gear Solid 5.
Well, Metal Gear as a franchise, I think, just got so bloated and up its own ass that it's just...
Well, yeah, and he's the one that did it, though, right?
Yeah, he is the one that did it, but I think that's less... I think that's less he's lost his mind and more he just got caught up in his own hype.
Like, okay, here's the thing. People, I think the public is, I think we're getting tired of, hey, would you like some video game along with your cutscene? And that's been a lot of what the Metal Gear Solid franchise has been.
Since 4, at least.
Yeah, and... The Order 1886 was another game like that.
I never played it.
I haven't either because I don't have a PS4 yet, unfortunately. But I've watched.
I do have it, and I watched some reviews for it, and I'm like, no, I played Metal Gear Solid 4. I don't need to do that again.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And when they showed this game, when they were unveiling the PS4, it looked fucking amazing. It looked epic. I'm like, oh my god, I want this. And turns out it's not really even that much of a game. It's like a 3-hour long QuickTime event.
Yeah, every now and then it'll say like press A.
Yeah, and then like the developer's like, well, we didn't intend for it to be a game per se. It's an interactive entertainment experience. Fuck you. All right, fuck you.
Well, it's the same thing. You got that one series. You got that one game called Quantum Break.
Oh right, yeah, the one where it's like, play the game, then you watch an episode of a basically the equivalent of a sci-fi original TV series.
Yeah, basically.
And then you have another. Now, from what I hear, like the actual game portion of it is competently done. It's not spectacular, but it's competent.
Yeah, the actual game is pretty good. It's a good representation of the current generation, what it's capable of. That's not a problem. The problem is
that TV show is boring as fuck.
Well, the TV show is terrible. Basically, what happens is you play like a section of the game, and another problem with it is that it's all kind of based off like the idea of like destiny and time and whatnot. So you have these periods called junction periods where you take control actually of the film's antagonist, the main villain.
Right.
And you can choose like, oh, well, this is how the story's going to... It's almost like choose your own adventure. You can decide how certain plot points play out.
See, though, like, okay.
Except none of it apparently matters when it comes to the ending, so that's a problem. Another problem, and this kind of just gets back to the whole TV show aspect, is basically you play, you play like a level or two of a decently made third-person shooter, and then you stop and you watch a full-length 22-minute episode of a TV show with the production values roughly on par with the Sci-Fi Channel.
Right.
And it's sort of like, why am I being taken out of this, pretty good game to watch episodes of Fringe?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but there are some things that in a video game, that work.
Here's the thing, though.
Then when you see them in like full 3D live action TV shows, it's like, those outfits actually look very stupid.
Right. Yeah. The thing with Quantum Break, though, is I'm almost inclined to give that a pass. I mean, not saying that I would play it or buy it, because I won't and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't consider a game like that to be, quote-unquote, part of the problem, because I think in that case, they're legitimately trying to do something new and different and kind of interesting.
So basically what you're saying is that they're taking a look at this cutscene problem, and they're being like, well, how can we still get all that story into our game without turning the game into one long cutscene? Oh, let's make some TV shows that you watch in between levels, and then... I think they approach it from a different standpoint. I think they actually approach it from a standpoint of, like, more, like, I guess just all on the whole better immersion in entertainment, which seems to be, like, what these companies keep saying that we want, but I think a lot of us really don't to a degree. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us just want to play a fucking game and be happy. Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, right? Like, okay, so Konami, they ditch Kojima, they shoot fucking Silent Hill in the head and completely shatter Del Toro's dreams, make the poor fucking Spaniard cry.
And he's gone on record saying that he will never collaborate with another
he's shattered. He's broken and fucking despondent now.
So congratulations. A critically acclaimed director who would have given video games a degree of legitimacy, as quote-unquote art, has now said he will never touch touch the medium again because Konami went and shot themselves on live TV.
And they delist themselves from the New York Stock Exchange, which at that point you are effectively declaring we are no longer a viable financial entity. Mm-hmm. I mean, in essence, I mean that's what I take it as, at least when you hear, like, in the public mind, whether or not you know in the know about the financial stuff or not. I mean, when you hear that a company delisted themselves from the stock exchange, that's the perception you get. They're just packing it in. They're done, right? And the thing is, like, okay, so and it's not just Metal Gear that's gone now. It's not just Silent Hill that's gone now. Konami had I guess, a bit of a failure a couple of years ago when they released Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. I have not played it. I played Lords of Shadow 1, which was good. It wasn't a Castlevania game. It was a great God of War game. But it wasn't a Castlevania game. And that was the thing, right? Like, they kept saying people don't want another 2D Castlevania. But we do.
Especially given sort of the rise of sort of retro gaming, both as, both in terms of collecting older games and making newer games in that style, like, say, Super Meat Boy or Shovel Knight.
Right, exactly.
It seems that people really do want those kind of 2D kind of games again. And Nintendo has proven that, the 2D side-scrolling Mario games are still very popular.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, Super Mario, new Super Mario Brothers has been a great seller for Nintendo. They went on and did, Super Luigi Brothers, whatever, and that did well.
Oh, the Year of the Luigi.
Yeah.
I think they still have a huge... I still think they have warehouse full of unsold Luigi amiibos from that.
Nice. But, so what happens is, I think his first name's Koji. Koji Igarashi. I know his last name's Igarashi. Basically, the father of Castlevania, or father of Symphony of the Night, that kind of gave birth to, an entire new subgenre of games went on to be called Metroidvania. He's like, all right, nigga, I'm on Kickstarter. Fund me. Boom. Like 24 hours. He got his money, and he's making a new game called Bloodstained. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, so Konami not only kills basically, you had Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 that I won't say it was a flop. It just didn't go over all that great. A lot of people are like, what the fuck is this? Because a lot of it took place in like a modern day setting.
And yeah, that's so not, Castlevania. We want like Dracula.
There was very little Castle Orvania in our Castlevania. And of course, we're like, hey, but Konami, god damn it, they had so many franchises, so many great franchises that they could work with and resurrect and do something with, and that they don't have to spend $180 million goddamn dollars to make a good game.
And that's
you don't have to.
Once they finally decided to tried to justify all of this, they basically said that they are getting out of the quote-unquote AAA video game title business entirely. They're done making games for consoles, basically saying it costs too much money, and they're going to focus solely on mobile games. And
that's the thing. That's the pisser right there. That's the fucking pisser. Mm-hmm. Because there is a halfway point, all right? You don't have to spend $180 million goddamn dollars to make a good game. Mm-hmm. You don't. Why not say, hey, look, we can't afford to do this anymore. Metal Gear Solid 5 is going to be the last one. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Okay, fine, you gotta cancel the Silent Hills thing? Well, that's stupid, but alright. If they just don't have the money to fund its development, alright, fine. Then say, alright, we're going to scale back. This is our new direction. We're going to be releasing, titles more in the spirit of, they can say titles in the spirit of indie development or whatever. Mm-hmm. Basically just kind of pretty up the word saying we're going to make cheap-ass games now. Mm-hmm. And go back, embrace the retro craze, because that's where they can really really deliver some heavy-hitting shit. They can go back, make an old-style Castlevania. They can go back, make an old-style Contra. Gradius, fucking Bayou Goddamn Billy.
Bayou Billy. Did that ever get a sequel?
No, it did not.
Well, there you go, Konami.
And it's not just their own titles that they own the rights to Hudson Soft titles as well, like Bomberman. So, I mean, there's a lot of properties, a lot of IPs that Konami owned that are basically dead now. I mean, like, they're making a Contra game like a free-to-play Contra game for mobile phones. And that just fucking sends a chill down my spine.
Especially when you consider that mobile phone games are simpler and cheaper to make. So why focus on the mobile market when you could still make these games for a console? And they probably sell pretty well considering, what the current state of gaming is. People sort of want kind of like that simpler.
I mean,
kind of
okay. In 2009 and 2010, Capcom released Mega Man 9 and 10. And they were brand new games, completely brand new, done in the old NES style. And they sold like crazy. They were hits. People loved them. Like us old school gamers, that grew up with Mega Man and shit. They're great. They're fucking awesome. And, Konami could easily do the same thing. And, those two games didn't cost Capcom much money to make. I mean...
They probably made a crap ton of money considering what the game sold for contrasted against what they spend to actually make it.
Yeah, I mean, they sell for like $10, $15 on PSN, or I'm assuming Xbox Network, Xbox Live, I don't know.
The Xbox Store!
Yeah, the Xbox Store. Konami could have easily done like, okay, hey, guess what? Maybe release like a Castlevania Trilogy pack for PlayStation Network. Fucking Castlevania 1, 2, 3, maybe with some, extra features like time trials and leaderboards and all this other bollocks. Achievements, and put that fucker up there for like, 15, $20.
The power of achievements. I mean, I think they pretty much define what WoW players spend their free time doing.
Do the same thing with Contra. Put up Contra and Super C. Leave out Contra Force because that was just horrible. Put up Contra and Super C. Maybe even Contra 3 or something. Put that shit up. Fucking... And I think actually those might be on the Wii U Virtual Store. I don't know. I'd have to go check, and my Wii U is currently in Pennsylvania. So, won't be doing that. But yeah, I mean, there's so many... You don't have to spend millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to make a good game. These fucking indie developers are making great games that are solid with good gameplay, interesting mechanics, good graphics. You can get them for $15, $20 on fucking Steam, and they're selling like gangbusters. They're going crazy. And, you've got fucking Kojima, who's basically bankrupting a goddamn company, just by producing one single fucking game that probably is not even going to make its money back. I mean...
Well, see, this is why I'm actually kind of excited about Kojima going to Sony, because I think once you get him away from Metal Gear, you can kind of get him back to basics, because I think the problem was just with him, that he is so in love with Metal Gear that he was incapable of doing a scaled-back Metal Gear game. Like, it had to be this big monument to his genius, and that was sort of the problem. But now that he's with Sony, now that he's away from the whole Metal Gear thing, he doesn't have to basically dig deeper up his own ass.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I certainly respect the man's talent. I know he's contributed a lot to the industry over the years from the days when I was a kid. Though I've honestly, again, never been a fan of the Metal Gear games. I don't like sneaking around like a little bitch.
I like the Metal Gear games. They're fun.
Yeah,
Well, they were. The which one was it on on the first PlayStation? That one was good.
Metal Gear Solid 1, I think, was on.
Yeah,
I know that was on PS1. I don't know about 2. I don't know if that was on PS1 or not.
But yeah, the earlier games I liked. 4 I got for free with my PS3 as part of like sort of a bundle, and that's the one where it's like, oh Jesus Christ, the cutscenes have just gotten worse.
It's like, well, I guess I'll go buy some beer, and when I come back, this will be done.
Yeah,
but I mean, there were so many things that Konami could have done, and the thing is, like, in Konami's rationale behind this decision, I actually did some research on it, and it turns out the only time they've actually been profitable in the last few years has been when this mobile game that they put out just went fucking apeshit in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the first time they've actually been profitable. And I think that was in like 2008 or something, maybe. I don't recall exactly the year. I couldn't even tell you the name of the game. And I guess that's like why they're going back to doing this. But it's still stupid because, okay, so you're just going to stop developing real games altogether? I mean, a company with such a rich heritage of awesome games, of awesome IPs, and you're just going to fucking shoot it all in the goddamn head and fucking whore it out, cookie cutter that shit, and put it on fucking iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I know they're a company. I know their first responsibility is to make money. But, it's...
They could have made money in a way that didn't involve this.
Yeah. I mean, it's horrible, and it's really frustrating to see, like these old companies, like, the old giants, the dinosaurs, Konami, Capcom, Nintendo, they're more than just companies. They're like caretakers of a legacy of part of our culture now that like an entire generation now has grown up with. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they do need to make money. I fully understand that. But, God damn it, they owe, I hate to say it like this, because it does sound very entitled, but they owe us better than that, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, that is fair. I mean, it's sort of the thing that if video games are going to be art, then we need to start thinking of games themselves as art. And fact of the matter is that, art belongs to everyone who it's made an impression upon, not just its creators.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. It really is, and it's very frustrating. Now, who knows? Maybe in a couple of years, maybe it'll change. Maybe they'll start,
Well, I think Konami. I don't necessarily disagree with Konami's reasoning here, but I think the bigger problem is, again, sort of the problem, not necessarily with the industry as a whole, but sort of the mentality of these AAA titles. I think the retro thing really needs to be embraced, because not only is it in right now, but it is very affordable to sort of pander to. And it's more economically viable in that regard. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
I just think that's really... I think Konami kind of... Their rationale... What they weren't wrong necessarily, but they kind of went about trying to address the problem in the wrong way.
They shot themselves in the fucking head, set the body on fire. Mm-hmm. I mean, they completely overreacted in a way that's probably... I mean, is looking at the situation now, looking at it as it currently stands, they're never going to be a viable entertainment company again, at least not in the West. Mm-hmm. They've basically just retreated their asses over to fucking Japan, where they're going to crank out fucking pachinko machines and mobile games.
Contra Pachinko!
No, that's a thing. That is a thing. That is a fucking thing. It is real.
God. Pachinko is like the lowest form of machine-based gambling.
Yeah, and that's something, though, like, I I'm seeing a lot of this, though, where these older companies, they're really struggling. It's almost like old bands, old rock bands from like the 70s and 80s trying to do comeback tours. And they're having a really hard time adapting to like the modern, climate and everything, when in reality, though, they don't need to. Just do what you've always done and do it awesome. Mm-hmm. Stop overthinking shit. Like, okay, the new Doom game comes out this week. Have you ever played Doom?
No,
okay.
Actually.
All right, so, growing up, PC gaming, it was real funny because, like, Doom, really, really violent game for the day. Now it's, whatever. But for its time in mid-90s, really violent, satanic imagery fucking everywhere. And my mother would not have let me get that fucking game. Mm-hmm. She just wouldn't have. And it's real funny. It was shortly after, like, Christmas or my birthday or something, and I was in Staples one day, which was right across the street from where my mother worked. And I was in Staples, and I ran into my cousin. And, he's like, oh, have you played Doom 2? Like, no, I haven't. He's like, dude, you should get it. It's awesome. Like, yeah, my mom would have a shit fit if I got that. He's like, what she don't know won't hurt her. And I'm thinking, like, you know what? You got a point, dude. You got a point. So I got it. I got it. And I don't know. Like, I was kind of disappointed. And I'm sure at least some of our listeners have played Doom. I'm sure, because that's just one of those games that, if you've done any bit of PC gaming during the 90s, you've fucking played Doom. And I get it, and it was really cool, right? Like, up until the point where I'm wandering around this goddamn compound, wishing I had something to shoot at, but I don't, because I've killed everything. And I'm just looking for a goddamn key card. And that was the thing with first person shooters of that era. Like, I don't know, maybe it was due to system limitations. They can only have so many sprites on screen or whatever. But like, the shooting seemed to be almost minimalistic. You would kill maybe a couple dozen things, whatever. And then the rest of the time, you're trying to figure out whatever puzzle you had to figure out to get out of the fucking level. And that should just piss me off. But the new Doom game is coming out this week. I'm hearing bad things. Because, okay, ID Software, or id, whatever they're called, they put out an open beta a few weeks ago. I didn't partake in it. I didn't even know it was a thing. And frankly, even if I had, I probably wouldn't have gone into it because it was for the multiplayer of Doom. Now, that's one thing I will give Doom. Of course, it's partly Doom's legacy in this kind of thing. It is also largely due to the era in which it was developed, because online multiplayer gaming wasn't a thing back then. But, people expect a strong single-player experience out of Doom. That's what you expect. That's what, the diehard fans of the franchise are that's what gets their dicks hard. Well, ID Software, when they do the beta, what do? Multiplayer. What does it look like? Fucking Halo.
Oh, I was going to say.
There is nothing setting it apart from any other FPS in the market, just looking at.
That's the thing. Halo multiplayer really took off in such a way that became the new trendsetter. Now everything is Halo because, Halo.
Call of Duty is now Halo.
I never cared much for Call of Duty anyway.
Well,
so
I really liked the older ones. The ones that were World War II. I also liked Modern Warfare to a degree. It was when they just started shifting so much over to multiplayer, online, and the first-person campaign, or the single-player campaign began to suffer because of it. I just kind of checked out. Because, I suck at FPS games, right? suck horribly. I play them when I play them on fucking easy, and even then, frankly, I struggle.
You, unlike me, you weren't forged in the fires of GoldenEye.
Yeah, no, I totally wasn't. I mean, I'm not.
That game made men of us all, sir.
Yeah, but I would like to sit your ass down in front of a fucking bullet hell shooter and see how you do.
We did a shooter in PA.
Yeah, we did Raiden.
Yeah, and you were pissed off that I was doing well enough that you couldn't mock me for it.
Well, true, but I'm saying, like, one that I've played more. Anyways,
lol.
Should we? Street Fighter. How'd that go for you?
Well, yes. Well, that was your wheelhouse, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Sit down, son.
Oh.
But so yeah.
Konami has lost their minds.
They have, and like that's the thing, though. These older companies, when they're trying to fit in with the modern climate, they seem to be doing that. And you don't have to. You don't have to try to fit in. We love you and accept you for who you are. Do your thing. Just be you. Do you. Do you.
Lol.
Speaking of doing you, I mean, not praising. Yes. Oh, God. That one should go in the blooper reel.
God.
Nintendo. Nintendo. Did we want to talk about the NX?
Yeah, let's talk about the NX, because, we kind of called this a while ago.
We did. Just purely drunkenly in spite of ourselves. We fucking called this shit.
The NX is going to... Well, nothing's confirmed, but it does seem like the NX will have some degree... will utilize some degree of cartridge for its gaming.
It is possible. Again, it is not confirmed. It is only a rumor, but it is a somewhat substantiated rumor, and it has been reported by IGN.
We've basically... The company that... Well, just to back up a bit, when the NX was first sort of, not announced, but when people first started hearing about it, and when the patents for it were first made available, we called that it could have some form of cartridge in the form of flash drives, due to the fact that it specifically had no disk drive in the patent for the NX.
Right.
Now, Nintendo, the first part of this is Nintendo said that the NX won't be sold at a loss, which means that in order for it to be competitive and yet not be sold at a loss, it has to be manufactured relatively inexpensively.
Right.
And how do you do that? Well, you reduce the number of moving parts. How do you reduce the number of moving parts on a video game console?
Get rid of the optical drive.
You get rid of the optical drive. So, that is, so that's one, that kind of confirms what we saw when the patents were first released. But what really confirmed our cartridge suspicion was, weren't you telling me, Jack, that basically the company that manufactures the flash card cartridges for the DS for Nintendo is expecting a huge business uptick that corresponds with the NX's planned release date.
Correct, yeah. And they're also working on, larger ROM chips for their cartridges or whatever, from what I understand. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, people are looking at these two things, and their expected upturn in business, it's in kind of like a weird place, right? Mm-hmm. It's like not during the holidays. It's not peak season. So it's like, all right, well, what the fuck could be causing this? So you look at that, and then you look at Nintendo, because they're known to be embedded in Nintendo because they make the 3DS cartridges. Mm-hmm. So you've got that, and it's kind of like people are, putting two and two together and thinking, okay. And I mean, it makes sense.
It does. It reduces the cost of manufacturing the console if it doesn't have an optical drive.
Right.
And as we were talking about with Konami, the retro gaming craze is big right now, and I think that retro gaming craze has sort of reminded a lot of people of just kind of how cool cartridges were, because, we've talked about this before, but cartridges kind of made your collection feel special in a way that discs just never were able to replicate.
Yeah. Yeah, now you yourself, is someone who's recently just kind of, gotten into the retro thing. Mm-hmm. Just in all honesty, which do you feel more satisfaction looking at? Your PS4 and 3 disc collection or your Sega cartridge collection?
Oh, Sega cartridges.
Exactly. I mean, you put them in and they work. Mm-hmm. And
there's a real tactical satisfaction to plugging a cartridge down into a console as opposed to, putting a disc into a disc drive.
Yeah, and there definitely is. But here's the thing, right? Okay, I was talking to a guy on YouTube the other day, and he did this video on, it was a Q&A video, but one of the questions was, do you think there'll be retro gaming channels in the future dedicated to shit like, PS3 and 4? Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, absolutely.
Well,
but here's the thing, though. Mm-hmm. How? Because so much of these games, you get a disc, and what you get on that disc is out of the box unplayable. Mm-hmm. You have to sit and get a fucking 7 gig patch for it before you can even play it. Mm-hmm. And once the server support for these games are gone, what do you have? Nothing.
Well, let me blow your mind there for a second. Well, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like how I've got a Sega Dreamcast, and I can't get Phantasy Star Online because what the fuck am I going to do with it? It's an entirely online-based game that worked in 1999, but now,
right?
You go on. At best, my best case scenario is I connect this thing to the internet and I, hit up Sega's headquarters where they've got one guy whose job was to maintain the Dreamcast server, Milton, right? They're just not they just kind of forgot he was on payroll and he's still there. He's like, is anyone here? And he's like, oh my god, contact. What year is it?
Right.
But just to blow your mind with that though, some of the kids that I teach, to them. When you say retro gaming to them, it's PlayStation 2.
Well, okay, to be fair, PS2 is considered retro at this point. I mean, it's.
Oh, well, yeah, but again, though, PS2 was sort of before the whole online crutch, more or less. So,
right.
You can still buy old PS2 games and plug them into a PS2, and they're playable.
Right.
Once you get to once 3 and 4, once the PlayStation 3 and 4, and the systems that are their contemporaries, once they become retro, that's going to be interesting to see because you can't play a lot of that stuff once the server support goes down. Yeah.
I mean, most of your PS3 and 4 games aren't going to be around in 20 years because they require, stuff to work that you can't get without going online, without having a server there on the other end to give you what you need to play that game. And when that's done, I mean, the days of game ownership are going away, and instead we pay $60 for a license to play the game, not to own it, to play it. Mm-hmm. We're not owning the game. We're simply buying a license to play it. And that's bullshit, but we're taking it. We're taking it in the ass. And I'm doing it along with everyone else to a degree because, I mean, I've got games on my hard drive from Steam. I've got games fucking on my PS3 hard drive that in, 10, 20 years, whenever their server shut down, I'm going to be fucked and can't play them anymore.
Well, and cartridges just sort of have that intrinsic value in your collection that I think is a feeling that even PS2 discs, which are still going to be playable, just don't have. The biggest thing, and just, I don't know, a lot of it's so tactile and kind of intangible, but it's, but there is something to be said for a good cartridge. And and you were even telling me, like, you've got a dinky flash drive that costs about $10-15, and it holds more information on it than a Wii U disc.
Yeah, okay, like your Wii U disc, they hold up to 50 gigs of information. In my hand right now is a cheap, flimsy-ass Ravage drive. It's made like Ravage from Transformers. It's so cheap that, like, when I plug it into my PC, Windows identifies it labeled as Transformer.
Transformer.
It is Englished up to the fucking 9, Joe, but it's 64 gigs. It's 64 gigs. It costs like $11-12.
Which completely changes the dynamic, because back in the day, like, and we're talking about, like, the rise of, say, I'm talking about, like, the PS1, the Sega Saturn, and the N64 era.
Right.
Like when that era came out, Nintendo got a lot of crap because they were sticking with cartridges while Sony and Sega went with discs, and the argument was you can fit more information onto discs than cartridges.
And at the time you could.
And discs are cheaper to manufacture. And you saw companies like, for example, the Final Fantasy VII was originally supposed to be on what became the N64. When Nintendo committed to cartridges, they jumped ship to Sony and the PlayStation, and Final Fantasy VII basically made the PlayStation.
Yeah.
But when you look at the state of physical media now, like you said, that drive that you have is $10-15 at most. I'm not sure on if, flash drive based cartridges would be cheaper than discs still, but you can now fit more information on them, which, might offset the value in the eyes of a company like Nintendo. But even more than that is the fact that discs are sort of being phased out entirely, because between online streaming, torrents, basically the idea of disc-based media, and obviously MP3 players, be they through Apple or the Android Music Store, disc-based media is going the way of the dinosaur. It won't be around much longer. But flash drives are still a thing. They're still around, and there's always going to be a need for them.
Not only is it a physical media that has superior storage capacity to discs. Not only does it have the added bonus of being fucking cool because it's physical media, but it's faster. Because you don't fucking load. You're not loading. Us retro fuckers, we remember when you didn't have to look at a fucking load screen.
Yeah, I sound like fucking Grandpa Simpson when I tell kids. It's like, I remember back in the day when if you wanted to play the GoldenEye, you just put it in the system and it started up. Back when old Billy Clinton was the president.
Pepperidge Farm remembers. Fuck it.
And then we all went down to the Blockbuster to rent our video games.
99-cent rentals for the shitty ones. You could keep them for 3 days.
And then the kids say, like, that's a stupid sentence, Grandpa.
Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, it's like, but it is interesting, that by far the most popular handheld system is still the Nintendo DS.
Yeah.
I mean, the handheld is going to always be the one area where Nintendo will always shine, because its closest competitors, I think, in terms of just raw sales, were the Sega Game Gear back in the Game Boy days, and then the PlayStation Portable, and now Vita in sort of the DS days, and neither of those came close to defeating Nintendo. And those were, the best shots. So, but you look at it, and those still retain, flash card-based cartridges. And you look at even PlayStation's own handheld ventures. The original PlayStation Portable utilized discs. They dropped those because a handheld with a disc drive is ungodly expensive and kind of breaks a lot. Portable portable gaming systems need to be durable. Because by their very nature, they're in someone's pocket banging around all day. So the first PSP with their disk-based drives, those failed. And then you moved on to the PSP Go, I think, which tried the whole no physical media at all. Like there was no drive or slot for a cartridge or disc. You just used it to connect to the PlayStation Store, and you just download games directly to it.
Right.
That didn't really catch the world on fire, and now the Vita, which is their current attempt, guess what? It uses flash drive-based cartridges like the Nintendo DS. So I find it really strange that cartridges are surviving in games, in the gaming world, just when discs are slowly being phased out. So yeah,
all of this has happened before,
mm-hmm.
and all of this will happen again.
So it makes complete sense that Nintendo would do this, and quite frankly, I mean, look, I had a Wii. I honestly never got a Wii U. I thought about it, but it was sort of one of those things where it was, I don't know, it just never. One
that
game.
And your laptop broke.
Well, yes, I was going to buy one, but then my laptop broke, and then I had to get a new laptop, and that ate up my earmarked Wii U money. But even since then, the one game on it that I absolutely had to have, which was Star Fox Zero, is coming out so late in the console's lifespan that I'm not even sure what the point is at this point. So,
well, the point is, I mean, Star Fox Zero has gotten mixed reviews. The control scheme is wonky from what everyone says. I don't have it yet. I will be getting it at some point, maybe in the next couple weeks. We'll see. But, the control scheme is wonky. But from what I hear, that once you get past that, once you kind of acclimate yourself to the controls, the overall gameplay experience is pretty much Star Fox 64.
Well, it's a remake of Star Fox 64.
Yeah, which was
a remake of Star Fox for the SNES. So
right. Yeah.
I know. Nintendo they're doing what they did with Zelda all over again, which is that they don't care about canon.
And the other thing about Nintendo with this whole cartridge thing is Nintendo, when they release a game, they release a complete game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, they're the one company left that I can say for sure does that. Zelda has been delayed again till 2017, where it's going to receive a dual
release for
dual release for the Wii U and the NX.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm bummed, but you know what? Okay, fine, because it's Nintendo. And for all their other faults, for all the other shit I fucking make fun of them for, I know that when that game comes out, it's going to fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be polished, it's going to be complete, and it's going to do what they say it's going to fucking do. And that's more than I can say for 75% of the other fucking publishers out there right now.
I guess my view on it is that I've kind of been loyal to Sony since the PS2 days. And if Nintendo can make this NX thing work, if they can make this return to cartridge-based gaming work, and I think they have a perfect opportunity to do it with the sort of with discs kind of going by the wayside, then Nintendo has a shot to win me back for the first time since the N64. So
I've had
go for it, guys. Let's see what you can do.
I mean, I'll be getting the NX. I mean, I've had every Nintendo system. I even had a fucking GameCube. I had a Wii. I've got a Wii U. My gaming. I mean, I don't know. Nintendo. My loyalty to Nintendo, admittedly, is largely nostalgic. Like, I can't see myself not getting a Nintendo system. I can't see myself not having a Nintendo system at some point available to me. I feel weird without one. In terms of my actual gameplay workhorse, that has usually been the Sony system. With the exception now, the Wii U, I've really liked a lot of the shit on the Wii U. Bayonetta is amazing. Super Mario 3D World, even though I don't usually get into the 3D Mario games, I really like that one. Super Mario Wii U is great. I've not played a bad game for the Wii U. They have epitomized quality over quantity. There aren't many games on the Wii U. God knows there's not. But what's there is good.
Mm-hmm.
So at least of the first party titles, which frankly make up for the bulk of the library, and there's still other Wii U games that I want to get. And a lot of Wii U owners are pissed off because they're like, oh my god, Nintendo's ditching us for the NX already. What do you mean already, nigga? It's been 5 years. That's like the traditional lifespan of a console. I mean, it really. I know that the PS3 went longer, so did the Xbox 360. But okay,
the PS2 went longer. Then again, the PS2,
right.
I think the PS2 is one of those watershed systems that really redefined a lot of what video gaming was.
Yeah, I would say the PS2 is probably my second favorite system of all time. Maybe second or third. I'll say third. Number one being the Genesis, number two being the SNES, number three being the PS2. And, the NES, the SNES, the Sega Genesis, they all had about 5-6 year lifespans. They're about. So, okay, guys, I know that with the Wii U, we didn't get a lot of what we wanted. Third-party support was non-existent. First-party titles, there were a lot of things that we wanted that we didn't get. Metroid, Zelda, Star Fox 2 years ago. F-Zero. A lot of people, I don't really care about F-Zero, but a lot of people would like to see a new one. A lot of these first-party titles that we were hoping for with Nintendo didn't happen. But what was there has been really good. And, going forward, hey, the NX is coming out. To me, when I hear that, I hear Wii U games are going to get really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me excited. And the systems are going to get marked down in price too. So you're saying, well, I don't see what the point in getting one now is. Well, I will say that for you, the point in getting one would be, well, they're probably going to be marked down in price here in the next few months.
Mm-hmm.
And so will the games. So there's that. But, I don't feel like Nintendo's abandoning me. I don't feel like Nintendo fucked me over. Maybe I'm just too much of a fanboy. Maybe my loyalty is, too deep, but I get it. Shit didn't go the way they thought it would go. They're moving on, and from what I understand, the specs for the Nintendo NX rival that of the PlayStation 4 quote unquote Neo, because guess what, all you people with the PS4, they're making another PS4.
Are they?
Yep.
Now, is this just what usually happens when they come up with a smaller version of a slimmer version, or the PS 4.5?
Yep. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be like an add-on unit, like a la the 32X. That would be amazing. No. That would be amazing. Or if it's going to be, another system. I like another standalone system. I don't know, but it's the PlayStation 4.5, aka the PlayStation Neo, and it's basically made to have 4K support.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't have a 4K TV. I don't plan to get one anytime soon. I don't really care. Beyond a certain point, it's masturbation. Mm-hmm. Of course, I mean, I said the same thing about HD as well, to be honest, back in the day. And now when I, look at a non-HD TV, I'm like, oh, what the fuck? God.
What is this, the Dark Ages?
My eyes, everything's blurry. What the fuck? You know? But, and that's, I don't know, that's kind of annoying too. Like, you know, Sony's already coming out with another system. I don't know if it's going to be like, you know, again, if it's going to be an add-on or what. We'll see. You know, knowing me, I'll wait till they come out with the PS 4.5 and just buy a PS4 at that point when they mark them down, and I won't give a fuck.
Well, the thing about the 4K TVs is you kind of need a steady 4K signal. And that's sort of one of the big problems with it, why it hasn't really taken off quite yet.
And that was the deal with HD too, right? I mean, like, okay, when HD came out, you know, it's like, oh, get an HD TV. Da, da, da. Well, guess what? Your HD TV is only good if you have an HD signal or are watching HD media. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, back in the day, it was like, oh, we have more HD channels than these guys. So, like, it took years for you know, networks to catch up to it. Mm-hmm. I'm not particularly arse. I really don't care. Like, the only thing that would make me care would be if they just kind of start, you know, if that means that support for the PS4 is already going to start waning. I don't see that being the case. I really don't. I see it simply being is they're going to have to either come out with two different versions of games or have two quote-unquote modes on one disc. That would be the more intelligent route, I would think. Have two different modes per game. Like, you put the disc in, it can read what system it's in, and will respond accordingly, I would think, / hope. Because, I mean, you know, I'd hate to think of all the people who bought a PS4 that's only like 2 years old. Mm-hmm. And now that would be getting fucked. But we'll see. But yeah, the NX is supposed to at least have the capability of the PlayStation 4.5.
Oh, that's good to hear, at least, because Nintendo's been doing this underpowered nonsense for too long, so they can come out with a system that is both comparable to the PlayStation 4 in terms of power, and also effectively utilizes cartridge-based media. And I might have to seriously consider a Nintendo console for the first time since, again, the N64 days.
Now, if they really want to blow me away, when they if they do make it cartridge-based, make the cartridges look like fucking SNES cartridges or Nintendo cartridges. NES.
I would say my preference would be Super Famicom cartridges. I always thought they looked a bit more cooler than the SNES cartridges.
I don't know. I like my SNES cartridges. I think they look fine. But now, not to piss in the Wheaties here, but, you know, another possibility is that this company could simply be making the hard drives for the NX or something. Mm-hmm. And it could end up they could end up saving money on the moving parts, by getting rid of the optical drive and making it online only.
Well, that is true. I mean,
I hope that's not the case. I hope
that is true. But this company, though, that we're talking about, I mean, their whole thing seems to be making cartridges for the DS. So that seems to be what their role is with Nintendo.
Well, that and the fact that Nintendo themselves, you know, their whole thing is that they don't know what year it is. So, you know, maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe they've all fucking derped out and they think it's 1984. Mm-hmm. And we'll get, just actual fucking cartridges. I think it would be a win for everyone. I think it would be as cheap, if not cheaper, to produce than discs. No moving parts. You get higher response time, more storage. Of course, there would still be a hard drive because people will still want, you're still going to have DLC. You're still going to have all this other shit. So I'm sure the NX will have a hard drive. But, we'll see. I don't know when exactly Nintendo is supposed to actually unveil the NX. That was why they basically kind of bowed out of E3 this year, was because I think they are showing Zelda at E3, I think. They're having like a thing for Zelda, but like Nintendo themselves, like, aren't just making a large presence because they say that the NX just isn't ready. It's not ready to show. Mm-hmm. They say it will be ready to show later this year. So one theory that's been floated out there will be that Nintendo will show a prototype at the Tokyo Toy Show. We'll see.
Indeed we will. Indeed we will. Let's switch gears a bit and catch up, kind of revisit something that we talked about in our last show, where we talked about the new Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. We talked about Rita Repulsa and the first looks that we got at her costumes. And then after we were done recording, this stuff came out, that the Ranger suits themselves have been unveiled. And
yeah, I was on that showed that to you, actually.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this, because I think you and I have two very different opinions on them. I went to bat. I said that Rita's outfit, I didn't mind the departure at all. I thought Rita looked absolutely fine in the photos we saw. But I gotta say, I'm not a fan of these Ranger suits.
I like them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, my thing with the original Ranger suits were that they looked exactly like what they were. Cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, kind of stupid. These still look kind of stupid, to be honest with you, because they're Power Rangers uniforms, suits, whatever, and by definition, Power Ranger suits look kind of stupid.
Mm.
That being said, I think they're kind of cool. I mean, you got your glowy bits, and they all have these nice silver accents to kind of break up the color monotony. I think they're pretty cool. And like the helmet part, the part that goes like the eye visor, it actually looks like it's got some substance to it. It actually looks like it would house like a HUD kind of a thing.
My take on these. Okay, there are bits that I like. I like that they went for a more armored look than just the spandex, and I like how they were able to incorporate the Super Sentai Zeo Ranger diamond pattern that was the Mighty Morphin suit. They kind of replicated that as sort of an Iron Man-esque arc reactor light source on the chest.
Yeah.
I like that. But really, the things that I'm not a fan of, what I really don't like, one is it's the helmet design. The helmet design for the Red Ranger looks fine, but he's the only one who seems to have a unique helmet design. The other four all seem to have the same sort of helmet design, which
I don't see. To me, they each look pretty unique, with the most similarity being between, I would say, the Pink Ranger and probably the Blue Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see some uniqueness there between all of them.
But I'm not really seeing, the Red Ranger, obviously you can see the T-Rex motif on his, but you really don't see any of the other animals reflected in their helmets, which is a big disappointment for me. Another thing I'm not a big fan of is that while I am a fan of the more overall armored look, there just seems to be too many fussy details going on here. Someone compared these to Iron Man suits. Iron Man's suits in the Marvel movies are more streamlined and less visually cluttered than these. A lot of these power lines, a lot of these individual segments going up and down the rib cages and the legs, it just seems over-designed. I think these could stand to be done over once or twice more, just to smooth out some of the design elements. Because to me, it just looks a bit too cluttered. The design looks a bit too cluttered, I guess.
I don't know. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they look pretty cool. I just think, to me, like the lines or whatever that kind of break up the color of their respective costumes, mm-hmm. I think, to me, they make sense because, I mean, they're basically power conduit circuits, whatever. They mm-hmm. clearly stem from the central, quote-unquote, arc reactor, whatever, the diamond in the chest. to provide power or whatever to the rest of the suit. To me, I see that as like a functional aspect of the suit, which is made aesthetic. It helps break up the monotony of just the color. I like it. I mean, as far as the animals being represented in the helmets, I could not care less about that.
See, that was one of the coolest parts about the old Mighty Morphin Power Ranger suits, so I'm disappointed that they don't seem to be going that route with this.
Well, I mean, okay, to be fair, like I've said before, I mean, I don't give a fuck about Power Rangers, so I'm going to be easier to please on this shit than you are. I'm just, you could say I'm completely objective. If anything, I'm maybe a little bit against, because I just think Power Rangers are kind of stupid. They piss me off because there's too much of them running around these goddamn suits and not enough giant robots smashing cities. I don't give a shit about the people and the things. I want to see the cities be smashed.
The people. Fuck the people.
Yeah, fuck the people. Whoa. I don't want to just go. I don't want to go see a fucking martial arts movie. I want to see a kaiju movie. If I want to see a martial arts movie, there's a lot of other movies that do it better. All right? Fucking just let me see giant robots fighting giant monsters in fucking cardboard cities, okay? So, yeah, when they're running around in these get-ups, I really don't give a fuck what's going on. I really don't.
Well, another thing, just looking at these suits and sort of the aesthetic that they're going for, I think this more or less confirms the speculation that Rita is tapping into the Green Ranger powers in some way, because Rita's green, quote-unquote, battle suit that we looked at on our last show shares a lot of the same sort of design elements here. It's obviously lacking all of the power conduit touches that these suits have, but if you kind of look at just like the way that the armor forms on Rita's green battle armor, it looks very much like she's tapping into a corrupted form of the Green Ranger powers for these. So when the Green Ranger is eventually revealed, either in this film or I'm guessing the next one, it'll probably be Rita's power armor more or less cleansed of the evil influence.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, it just seems like that Rita power armor costume and these suits, they all seem like they share a lot of design aesthetics, and I have to believe that was intentional. Just given the way that they seem to be treating this version, kind of taking the fact that Rita always had the green power coin in the show, and now saying, well, if she had the green power coin, of course she would use it.
Yeah.
So that, I guess, is our Power Rangers, catch up. Anything else? Anything else you wanted to touch on today, Jack?
No, I think I'm pretty much good. Unless you got something you want to discuss.
Well, I mean, politics is something that we are going to be getting into more on basically a Geek Show, but we're actually recording with Greg from Basically a Sports Show. After we're done with this one, we're going to sort of talk, we last talked about everything in the wake of Super Tuesday with the primaries on both sides, and now that we kind of know who the two main candidates are going to be, we can kind of look forward to the general election a bit. So that's what we're going to be talking about later on.
Yep.
So, with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch us on Twitter at A Geek Show. Send us email at basicallyageekshow@gmail.com, and you can find us on Spreaker, Stitcher, the YouTubes, and of course on the website basicallyasportshow.com. For Jack, this is Mike signing off for 68.
Good night, everybody.